Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and this episode is Questions of Kuntarkis. These are some questions that have been brought up and put in Kuntarkis' book, The Book of Knowledge, I Am Alien, by Roman Harrenbuehler, better known as Kuntarkis. So, welcome Kuntarkis, and I believe you have something to share as we get started.
Yes, Michael. Just a small phrase. I just thought I'd add this in. I believe it's very important for all of humanity to understand that there are many different forms of life throughout all universes and upon many planets that are evolving just like humanity is evolving. The only difference is the levels of thinking and understanding, not just in other evolving worlds, but within the human population as well. Every species in existence evolves in their own space and time. It depends on their life's experiences and their evolution in becoming self-aware in thought consciousness. That statement is not in any way a judgment on any individual, be it human or animal, as it is simply the reality of inner truth. There are thousands of civilizations that are much further advanced than humanity, as there are also civilizations that are nowhere near as advanced as humanity. And it's like saying, technology has one purpose only, and in the end it will eventually lead to a higher form of consciousness, beyond the third physical realm of matter. That is the purpose of all life in all existences, to evolve and move forward, never looking back or having regrets. I would like to answer some questions that have been asked many moments of human time.
Yes, so this is one of the questions, Kuntarkis. Even though we have touched on this question, what form of justice did the Narkariss impose on individuals who committed murder?
I think there's a lot of people on Earth, I really do, if they all listen to this, I believe at least half the human population would say, I agree with that, if they really come from the heart. So, to answer this question, we would have to step back on Narkariss 937,000 years of Earth time. Let's use Narkariss as example. If a Narkariss committed a crime like murder of another Narkariss, the form of justice would depend on the circumstances. For example, to take a life in self-defense, no matter what the situation, would mean there was no crime. The Narkariss believe that every individual has the right to defend themselves, as long as their defense is not an act of revenge. If a Narkariss took the life of another because of anger, revenge, or simply for the pleasure of murdering, then on being found guilty, they would be evaporated within one cycle period, meaning in one human day, the guilty individual would be vaporized, meaning put to death. The Narkariss believe that justice must suit the crime. No physical pain was imposed or would be imposed on the guilty individual. Once put through the process of evaporation, they would no longer exist. Their physical matter would be dissolved. Therefore, there was no need for funerals. Even if a body passed over from natural causes, the remains would be vaporized in the same manner. No bodies were buried ever in the ground.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, my next question, which is a completely different angle. In Australia, at a place called Cunningham's Gap in Queensland, why do cars lose power and we feel like we are in a vacuum when going up the mountain?
You know, Michael, that's a really, really interesting question because as a sales executive, when I was on the road a lot, I used to experience that all the time. And I used to ask myself that question a lot. And because I was so involved in sales and family life, I never really looked into it until further on. And what I discovered, around 69 million years ago, a meteor hit your Earth in that exact location and caused devastation all over planet Earth. Remembering the land mass was very different back in that era. It changed all life forms and forged a new era in evolution. If a study was made of the area surrounding Cunningham's Gap, your scientists would conclude that a meteor did indeed hit your Earth and push up the land to form the shape that exists there at present. That meteor is buried several hundred feet or more below the surface because of the tremendous shear force of it hitting a stationary object like planet Earth. There is a very strong magnetic field surrounding that entire area, which is being transmitted from the meteor, which is buried deep within the Earth. Even though it may sound illogical to your scientists, the meteor was meant to hit your planet Earth because its energies help balance the Earth itself. As well, the dinosaurs that existed in that era were meant to perish, which in reality has been a great advantage for the advancement of humanity's evolution. The magnetic energies that exist at Cunningham's Gap cannot harm humans as they are a natural occurrence, in fact, are of benefit to the human body. All of life and plants are created from magnetic energies, which come from living energy in its purest form, which is the source of all existence in all universes.
Wow. Would you like to go into a bit more of an explanation of how this meteor related to the dinosaurs? Would you like to speak about that?
Yes, if you like, yes. Well, try to imagine, if you can step back, if I sort of said to all the people that say would listen to this, say, use your imagination and try to project yourself backwards into space and look at the Earth the way it is. And what you would have seen 69 million years ago, even further, 80 million years ago, the Earth as the landmass was all different to what it is today. So if we look at Australia, Australia itself was joined to another mass of land, making one huge area of land. When all those volcanoes and all the, land masses changed, it literally moved land up and moved land down. And Australia broke away, just like other countries. And what we have is Australia as one of the largest islands on this planet Earth, totally covered around with water. When that meteor hit the Earth at such sheer force and went so deep, it literally created the Ice Age. And it was a long, long time before that Ice Age changed. And every life form that actually existed in near reality perished, especially the large dinosaurs, like the T-Rexes and all that. They literally perished. All the vegetarian ones perished, all the carnivore ones perished, and there was like one massive graveyard. If you could walk amongst it or fly over it, you would just see these large creatures dead everywhere. Because eventually all the plants disappeared, burnt down, couldn't rejuvenate itself. And over a long period of time, again, land masses changed and the Earth started to heat up. All those bodies, and there were some areas that had hundreds and hundreds of these animals lying in one place, dead, rotting. And as they rotted, their liquid pierced the Earth, sank. Even when the Earth opened up, it took all the bodies, the trees, by the hundreds and hundreds of tons. And over all those years, right throughout human evolution, that has been sitting deep beneath the Earth. And what it's created, which is really amazing, is coal, oil. And what do we use that for? We use coal to drive industries, trains in the past. Now we have electric trains. But we also, fossil fuel. And that's why they call it fossil fuel, because it comes from creatures, from plant life.
Wow. Wow. And so the bullseye for this meteor was literally Cunningham's Gap.
Yes.
Wow. And you said it so casually. This meteor was sent here back then on purpose. Can you explain that?
Well, if we went back to the dawn of time, not using time literally, because in reality, time is a figment of human imagination. It's practice and it has its benefits, but very few civilizations ever use the time factor like we do on Earth. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the single cell, let's say, that had the first thought without even knowing it was alive. And that's where everything began, because it's energy. And everything is energy, not just on Earth or within her. It's right throughout every single universe. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of different universes, all plugged together in one massive circle. So that energy, from a conscious level, knew that they had to put that meteor on Earth to change the evolution of all life species. The dawn of large creatures was to be no more on land. So they were destroyed. And by destroying them, we are now driving cars. And we used to drive trains, to use the coal, to use the oil, to create petrol. And that's where evolution is. So everything, Michael, has a purpose down the track, even if it is 69 million years. It's consciousness. And this is why my job, my aim, is to get humanity to understand that everything, no matter what you see, no matter what you touch, is pure energy. And it has thought consciousness. And every time you take a breath, you breathe in that living energy, which also has its own form of consciousness. And it's attracted to you to be attracted to your cellular structure, to make you grow deeper in thought consciousness and open up who you truly are. Infinite. In having the ability to do anything.
Wow. I was unsure. I wasn't sure whether it was actual aliens that had sent that meteor here, or whether, like you'd said, it was kind of natural because of the consciousness of creation.
That is true.
It was natural, kind of. It wasn't aliens.
No. Everybody thought that. And even one point, I actually used to think that, but I knew deep in my cellular memory, I knew that wasn't totally true, because that would be naturally the first answer anybody would come up with. But it wasn't. It was literally living energy through thought consciousness, knowing that it was the moment for this planet Earth to change its evolution in the species that were upon it. It created it, and they grew in the massive. This Earth was covered, absolutely covered in dinosaurs before that moment happened. And that was the moment that consciousness, through evolution, decided to make that gone. And it did.
I see. I'm so glad that I asked you about that we dived deeper into that. That's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So my next question, why are some parts of the Middle East always at war?
You know, we're just talking about energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason, but I'll explain it a little bit differently. Wars have been going on for thousands of human years in the Middle East, and that is real truth. It has been passed on from one generation to the next. There is an old saying, Michael, energy is everything and everything is energy. Energy never perishes, for every thought and action from every human individual on the wheel of life is recorded, visually and in audio as well, and ends up in a place vibration called the nothingness. If you remember in my book called The Dream Assassin, I spoke of a place which has the fragments that I created, or mystical man created in his magic. Now those fragments of everything that concerns humanity from the human past to the human present are recorded. So that hatred runs deep in many family lines. Many only see their hatred, and this hatred is passed on genetically and taught to children. A child grows up in a young adult filled with hatred, and in many cases they have absolutely no idea why they feel this deep-rooted anger. Sadly, that child's life is set in motion. So war goes on and on for thousands of human years for the most irrational, stupid reasons. Westerners cannot put their values or their level of thinking nor understanding on those from other nations or countries, because cultures, belief systems, experiences of life are very different all over the world. There are millions of people living today in some form of poverty and hardship, and there are many who envy what they perceive in the Western world as a rich Western lifestyle. What they fail to recognize is that poverty exists in the Western countries as well. Now, before we go on, I just want to also add to that. Try to look at a picture that I'm creating. A man grows up and he's very angry, or even a woman grows up and she's very angry. They come together and they've attracted each other because the energies are identical. Like attracts like, and that is so true. So they get married or they stay together and they decide to have a family. But they're still very angry deep inside. They've never dealt with their anger. Now this is only a small scale. Can you imagine on a scale where there's hundreds of thousands of people involved, or even millions? Now when they have their children, the genetics are passed on through the blood and through the father's sperm. The child, as it's growing, starts to feel things, but not sure what they're feeling. They see their parents always arguing, yelling and screaming, so they start to experience something they're not sure of what they're feeling, and it's called hatred, anger, because through their parents and these experiences, it's coming out in the children. So as they grow to about, like say 14, 15, they become quite angry and rebellious. And again, they're not sure why. The truth is parents' genetics, because those parents have not dealt with their negative emotions from their own upbringing. And that's where the problem lies in countries like the Middle East, that war for thousands and thousands of years. And that's not saying it's just the Middle East. It's all over the place. Many countries.
Yeah, indeed. My next question, should nations try to instill their values on other nations?
I personally believe every country has the right to live a certain way, as long as it doesn't impact any force of control, domination, dictatorship. Every country's government are elected by the people, and they should keep that in mind. They are not separate from the people and should work for the people, not the government. One of the reasons, Michael, why I'm just saying that is because that is the policy of the Narkariss. They only have councils, they don't have governments. But the people who work in the councils are changed around all the time. And that's why there's never any negative conflict. And they're working for the people, not for the council. And that's where we have a misunderstanding about governments. Every nation should allow another nation to evolve in their own levels of understanding and not try to change them or to force a different way of thinking upon them. To force your way of thinking onto another, especially when they are not ready to accept it, can and does cause conflict and confusion. In many cases, wars are created simply over stupidity of an overactive human ego, and more misery results.
Is terrorism the main cause of wars today?
If I was to give an honest answer to that question, Michael, I would say beyond all doubt that the real cause of all wars right throughout human history up to this present moment is human ego. The true enemy is staring at each of us when we look into a mirror. That's the human ego, which has been created by belief systems and conditioning and fears, and especially greed. Many human beings who carry a great deal of anger and hatred within themselves cannot wait to unleash their violence onto others. It seems as if violence is their only means of dealing with what they are feeling. While the human individual holds on to their anger and hatred, they will remain blind to any form of conscious growth. What is advancing is the growth of the human ego and its negativity. All crimes of all descriptions are a creation out of fear. In most situations, these are fears from the past brought into the present that creates the future. Change yourselves if you want to change your world. This is your starting point.
Yeah, I see. Now I have a different question. How do I know if I have found the right teacher for me?
That's a pretty big question, isn't it? I think there's a lot of people that want to ask that one. Planet Earth is one enormous classroom designed for learning and experiencing life lessons. One of the main problems is that human beings want to learn everything yesterday. So many humans place judgment on themselves as well as on their teachers. You are teachers to some degree, but first and foremost, we are all students. When a human individual exists from pure logic, they operate from beliefs and conditioning of the human brain. And beliefs and conditioning are past experiences brought into the present from the data that is stored within the human brain cells. When you, the individual, seek a teacher, you will attract one with similar forms of logic and understanding. Instead, seek a teacher from your heart, which is a direct connection to your soul. Your heart center will help you grow in thought consciousness and will connect you with all knowledge in all universes. Your heart center will allow you to see the falseness of human ego and will allow the truth and love to manifest within you and all around you. Through this manifestation, you will always bring into your life the teachers you need to guide and nurture you throughout your human life. You in turn will do the same to your children, as this is the cycle of life. Always remember, no one is greater than you, and you are not greater than another. Each of you are learning for the same purpose, to advance your consciousness, as knowledge is meant to be shared, so all may grow in thought consciousness together.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's good. My next question is, why is so much disease plaguing humanity?
Many human beings are suffering from many forms of disease, Michael. It is something that will continue to haunt humanity for centuries to come. Human disease is as prevalent in your year 2021 as it has always been throughout your human history. For all the technology humanity possesses to fight disease, there still exists the ironic fact that the modern Western lifestyle largely contributes to the creation and manifestation of human disease. An examination of human health over humanity's existence would be of great benefit, because today more human beings suffer from a large variety of illnesses, diseases than ever before. This has been mentioned before, yet I feel it is well worth mentioning again. All human disease is first created by 1. Bad lifestyle, 2. Human negative emotions, and in turn feeding the emotions with junk food over a lengthy period of time leads to the human body breaking down. 3. Continuous abuse of the human body with negative drugs and alcohol, which eventually leads to disease and death. If one were to study the animal kingdom, especially the vegetarian ones, what you would find, they all get their right nutrients from the foods they consume, and also the amazing energy they have just from simple foods. One of the best examples is grass, meaning grass you walk on.
Yeah, gee, that seems so obvious to me now.
It is.
And the grass gets so much sun.
Yes.
So then that's passed on to those that eat it. Wow.
It's so full of nutrients. Michael, if you went out into a field that the cows were, say, you go back, say, I don't know, you've got to go back at least 60 years, 50, 60 years when cows were in paddocks and just eating grass, just normally. That grass has not been sprayed, has no artificial substances whatsoever. It just grows from rain, from the nutrients that are within the air, from the nutrients that are within the ground. Because Mother Earth brings it all up so things grow naturally and properly. The interesting thing is, it even has vitamin D because the sun is shining on it all the time. And that's why it's so green. Now, with a cow just eating grass, it has a tremendous amount of energy. Now, it has to eat a lot of grass, that's true. But the energy difference between what we eat today is so far apart when it comes to health, it's not funny. And you've only got to look at human society the way we are. We are so badly overweight, we are sluggish, we are heavier than we have ever been before because of the amount of metals that we consume, not just in food, but in the air every single day. And that's causing us to suffer horrendous illnesses and the creation of human diseases.
Yes. And I guess, like we were just talking about this before this episode, like there are several different greens that we can consume that have a great effect on our health.
Absolutely, Michael. I've come across something recently and I spoke to you about it. There's a product company called bulkpowders.com.au. It's an Australian company which is really brilliant. And they have a variety of different powders. And I buy a couple of them. And one is hemp powder. And it's just unbelievably full of the nutrients that the human body requires. Now, the other one is called superfoods. And it's a greenish type powder with so many different types of greens like spirulina, chlorella, wheatgrass, barley grass. I can't remember the exact of the other ones, but there's a variety. I think it's even got broccoli powder in it, but there's quite a lot. Now, the human body loves it, absolutely loves it. If you had that mixed with a glass of water or milk, forgetting cow's milk, please, just use soy milk, oat milk, almond milk. There's so many different varieties. And if you have that each morning, it will keep you going till lunch or after lunch because it's so impacted with the nutrients that our body needs, especially when it comes to natural protein. And that's what's important. And even iron.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so my next question is, you speak about thought consciousness within many topics. How important is it to human evolution?
Well, Michael, I mentioned that term on many occasions, and there is a formula that can be used in anything a human being wishes to create or manifest into their human physical reality. Let's say you want to change your current job for whatever reason. First, find the job position that you wish to obtain. Second, use this following statement directly from your heart with deep passion. Say it several times per day with true meaning, as if you already have that job, that position. Here is the statement, affirmation. Through my thought consciousness, connected to my mind through my imagination, and believing beyond all doubt that I am connected directly to living energy, I manifest this job into my physical reality now. The most important part of that statement, affirmation, is in the believing that you already have this job by seeing yourself doing it. Thought consciousness is a very powerful tool if you train yourself, and you can manifest any desire you wish, but always come from an honest heart. Now, just before I go on, the main words is thought consciousness, mind, imagination, believing, living energy, and physical reality.
And passion.
And passion. Absolutely. Thank you. And passion. And that's why I just put those few extra words there to guide a person to say it and write it down or record your own voice in saying it. That's very powerful because you are energy when you express. So it's going to be more powerful to you. And express it the way I have, or simply add your own words. But use the main ingredients: thought, consciousness, mind, imagination, believing, passion, living energy, and physical reality. And if you put it all together, it's a very powerful tool, because if you express it from your heart, the reverberation of your expression that's coming out of your mouth is energy. And it literally vibrates out into the universe. And your voice can travel, and this is no joke, far beyond this universe. The vibration of your voice can travel beyond the Earth's vibration. And that's why when scientists have sent out machines that have, sent out messages, those messages apparently have come back. And they thought it was an alien speaking back to them, but they realized it was their own recording.
Oh, really?
Yes. Right? So remember, you as a being, forget your brain, forget your human ego. Come from the heart, because the heart center links to everything that you are. The human brain is simply an organ for data collection. And the human ego draws on that data that comes from the mind, from the soul, through the mind, into your brain. Then the ego takes what it wants, dissects it, gets rid of what it doesn't want, and then gives you what you are asking for. Because the human ego has absolutely no understanding of what thought consciousness is, nor does it understand the heart, nor does it understand unconditional love.
It's like an unconscious virus, isn't it?
That's right. Very true. Very true.
hasn't studies shown that the brain is like it's doing quite a lot of different processes? I feel like you might be oversimplifying when you're saying it's just for data storage.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that, and that is totally understandable. But do you ever hear the scientists talking about the heart?
No.
And do you ever hear about how the heart has its own form of thought consciousness, and it's directly linked also to the soul? And the mind also passes on information into the actual heart center. And if you take a person who suddenly says, I'm so sick of life, I feel bad, I just want to have a heart attack, the heart picks it up before the brain. And the heart will give you, if that's what you wish, if you concentrate on it too long. And it'll give you that heart attack. You can talk yourself into that heart attack. You can also talk yourself into being 100% healthy. It's a really, really difficult thing to express to people who are logical, because they, in most situations, have turned off their creative side. They still have it, but they've literally turned it off without even knowing it. And they create everything through their logic. And that's okay if that's what they want. But when you turn your heart off, that's when you turn off humanity as being human. And you work like a robot. And that's what those green reptilians have done. And there are other races called the Greys that are now seeking thought consciousness because they have become completely logical in technology. And that's okay also. But you have to have not just thought consciousness, you have to have your mind connected so you can have your creative side working with logic. So the two can intermingle. Now, if you put your head into one of these machines that scans your brain, you can see all these electrical little messages going left and right, all over the place. Mm. The brain was set up by thought consciousness, which is living energy, to literally house the knowledge from the soul through the mind to the brain, to go into the creative side first and then into the logical side. The problem is the ego, which should never have been. And the ego is the one where you can put a gun to someone's head and shoot it and smile and laugh. That's what some people actually have done, because they have never ever felt the true passion of their own heart. Because if they did, they would never ever take a life. Not even in war. They would say, no, it is wrong to kill. Because the body of life, which houses a spirit, which houses the mind, which can house the soul, is the most precious thing to the totality of consciousness. And when we literally, say through war, blow up children into fragments because of our righteousness, wow, we're no longer human. We're an animal. That's all we are. A sick animal. Nothing more. Because we don't have a heart. The sad part is we believe we're doing the right thing. And we end up teaching people to murder. And that's really sad, because we involve everybody else, just like Hitler did. He involved everybody else into his nightmare, his stupidity. And look what it did. Killed over 69 million human beings. How bad was that? Mm. Now, the brain has the capacity to go far beyond what it is if it connects 100% with the creative side. But if the logic is only working by itself and is cut away from the creativeness, that means we've also cut away from our heart. Or let's put it this way, our understanding of what the heart truly is, which is unconditional love. Now you can use your thought consciousness, which is separate from your human brain. Your thought consciousness comes directly in the connection to your mind, to your soul, to your heart. Because thought consciousness is living energy. And living energy is the substance that has created everything. Now just imagine if we, being energy, we never created anything physical. And we just lived in a universe that was energy. And if we developed that energy where we could create shapes and create some form of identity like a body, we would never have had to go through the process of creating planets that we had to grow food so the human body would survive. And yet what's interesting, the human body wouldn't survive anyway unless it had the spirit. And the spirit is connected to the mind and then to the soul. So the outcast in reality is your physical essence, because it's going to die one day, perish, rot, and go back to dust. But your spirit will eventually go back to your soul, just like your mind. And in another, say, 5 billion years or 5 million years, your soul might become someone like Narkariss. Now that's a really interesting thought. But most people would not be able to perceive the existence of my father, Narkariss. If I can, well, everybody else should. But we have to touch our hearts. We have to think through thought consciousness of unconditional love in our heart, because it's energy. And living energy is love. It just knows love. And if we can connect with that, and every breath we take in, we're breathing it into our body in every moment of every breath. But to take recognition of that happening, if we don't have thought consciousness, how do we ever know we're doing it? And that's why I wrote the book of Knowledge I Am Alien, to get people another version of what could be possible.
Mm. And the ego is a part of our physical lesson as we incarnate again and again. As with any physical planet with physical conscious beings on it, the ego is the enemy that needs to be defeated before going to the next level.
100%.
Right. It's a factor for all beings, physical.
Yes, yes. Let me give you an example. Now, I know that the Narkariss are, 27 million years old in evolution, right? And there's a little over 40 billion of them. That's a lot of beings. Now, if we say got, so let's say 4 Narkariss, 2 females, 2 males, and we've got 4 humans, 2 females and 2 females. And we put them down.
2 females and 2 males.
Yeah, 2 females, 2 males. And we put them down and sat them on chairs, right?
Okay.
And we had a conversation. Now, under the present situation, the way the Narkariss think and the humans think, Narkariss would sit there in absolute joy in communication and enjoy every moment of that discussion without a judgment towards those 4 human beings. On the other hand, the 4 human beings, as they're talking, in most cases, would be placing judgment on either what they say or what they look like in a negative way. Now, you got to ask yourself, why? And that is truth. Why? It's because of the way we have evolved. We've evolved for 928,000 years. We have had thousands of lives. Many have never dealt with their karmic debts, and yet the emotions that are attached are horrendous. And all the wars we've had against each other. See, Narkariss have never fought each other. They've never done it. But humans have had 157,000 violent wars. So there is so much karmic debt from every single human on this planet. Then it's going to take a while to understand it and then try and learn to forgive and let go in love. And that's the difference when it comes to thinking. One judges, one doesn't. The Narkariss don't judge. They don't even feel as if they're judging. Where the humans, they do. Because it's a natural human way.
Mm. So their road, the road of the ego with Narkariss was never quite as bumpy.
No. No. Which is a good thing for evolution.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
You said, well, I don't want to be rude, but I mean, what about, and I don't know too much about the brain anyway, but it is, I think, more complex than the way you were saying just data storage. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. The human body, it's part of the whole human body. Every organ within the body has its own form of intelligence because it's living energy. It has its own cellular structure. The kidneys know what to do. The liver knows what to do. The pancreas knows what to do. The stomach knows what to do. The bowels know what to do. The eyes, everything. It's all working in its own form of harmony. Now the brain is simply another organ. It is looked upon as being something far more, and I can fully understand that. But the only problem is it still comes down to that it was designed to hold data. Because if it couldn't hold data, that means we wouldn't have any idea what we did a moment ago.
Yeah.
So it holds data and it sends out messages. And what's really interesting, Michael, give this some thought. I don't think too many people talk about this. Just say you're nailing some nails in, right, with a hammer. Mm-hmm. And you come up and someone yells out at you and you look up and you bring the hammer down and you smash your finger and the nail protrudes right through the skin, comes out the other side, and you're in so much pain, right? Now, let's slow everything down by 100,000 times when it comes to speed of how we're moving. Let's slow it right down. And let's ask ourselves the question, where is the energy coming from, the signal, to tell us that I've just slammed my finger with a hammer and it's driven the nail through my finger? Most will say instantly, the brain. The brain sends out a message like a wire, and this energy pulse goes all the way down to your finger and says, you're hurting. That would be the normal answer, and it's not true at all. The real truth, it comes from the mind. The mind sends a message directly to the finger and then goes from the finger directly to the brain. I know this sounds absolutely ridiculous. The brain then sends a message back to the finger and saying you're hurting. And that is done at the speed of light. That's how infinite we truly are. But we have become so human in flesh that we're forgetting the infinite part of who we are. We're losing the spiritual essence of what we truly are. We're only having parts of fragments. It's like when Atlantis blew up because of stupidity. It was all about greed. When the civilizations came over to do trade and eventually lived in Atlantis and mated with the Atlanteans, everything changed over thousands and thousands of years. When that sank, when it blew up first and then sank, the island literally blew up in the center and literally caved in on itself, upside down nearly. That's why nothing's ever been found of Atlantis. The interesting factor is there were survivors, lots of survivors actually. They went off in their boats in all different directions. And that's where the Aztecs, the Indians,
the Mayans,
all that. That's where they all came from. Even what was it called? The Mesopotamians. Everybody took a fragment of knowledge because it's within all those people. And they tried to put together so they could create some form of a belief system which was created into some form of religion. And they added to it. Whoever added to it, the hierarchy, whatever. But in reality, they never came from the heart. They never learned how to connect with their hearts to store that knowledge. They never learned how to understand the mind because they weren't in that frame of understanding. So that was human evolution. And now here we are, 928,000 years on. And we still have this thing about the year 2021. And yet what we should be, in reality, is we're now 928,000 years, not 2021. Because that's only 2021 years. It's a difficult one, Michael, to how would you say, to grasp when we think logically. We have to step out of those barriers, knock them down, punch them down, kick them down, so we can literally expand our own awareness and realize that everything, doesn't matter what it is, has a possibility of being created. It may take a long time, but it's there, just like magic. Magic is real. There is no one on this earth that could convince me otherwise, because I know it. But it's getting your conditioning away long enough to understand the real reality of that vibration of energy that is required to bring back that ability. And that's why I use those words. Through thought consciousness connected to my mind, through my imagination, and believing beyond all doubt that I am connected directly to living energy. When you say connected directly to living energy, you're saying connected directly to what? To your soul. Because your soul is so connected to living energy, it's not funny. And when we connect to our soul, we literally open up a gateway of knowledge, and it opens up everything. But what we have to do then is develop the pathways within the human brain. And at the moment, we're only using about 6%, if I remember correctly. Most people only use about 6% of the human brain. Some use about 8%. But if we create new pathways by listening to our inner self through the mind, those pathways will allow more knowledge so we can become self-aware and grow in thought consciousness.
Wow, that is so well said. Well, thank you so much, Kuntarkis, for all that you've shared.
You are very, very welcome. Very welcome indeed.
This concludes Questions of Kuntarkis. If you have a question you'd like to ask of Kuntarkis, simply email kuntarkis@gmail.com and we'll see if we can include the answer in a future episode. Until next time, my name is Michael Yon. Thanks so much for listening and stay tuned for more.